Hey, hi everyone. So in this question, we actually have a shaded region that's bounded by two functions. One's a line function and a curve that it will be rotated around the x-axis through an angle of 360 degrees. So we're actually supposed to find that volume that's created by that shaded region when you rotate it about the axis. We have been given that the two functions are actually bounded from the range of x equals 0 to x equals to 5. I've deliberately written the curve equation in this form because it will ease calculations later. Okay, so what we need to do is establish points A and B first, because what we are not given is the line function. Okay, so for the first one, point A, we know that x equals to 0. That would make y equals to 3 times 0, which is 0, plus 1 to the power of negative 1 over 4. And that should still leave us with 1. While point B, so x equals to 5, so y would then be equals to 3 times 5, which makes it 15, plus 1 to the power of negative 1 over 4. And we know that 15 plus 1 is 16, and actually that is 16 is actually 2 to the power of 4. And since we have the negative 1 over 4 here, when we multiply the indices inside, we actually remain with 2 to the power of negative 1, which is half. So we have established points A and B. So point A being 0, 1, while point B is 5, half. Okay, so now we can actually find our line of AB by using the equation of y equals to mx plus c. So m in this case is the incline, which we can actually use the 2 points. So y2 minus y1, which I'll use as half, minus 1, and x2 minus x1, that will be 5 minus 0. X, and the intersection of the y-axis, we know it's 1. So then this gives us the equation of negative x over 10 plus 1. And if we do a double check, the incline is negative, which makes sense because from our graph, the line has a slope that is going downwards. Okay, then we come to the next part of the question, which is to find the volume. Let's go to basics. If we have a curve, let's say a function like this, and we want to find the volume, so what we need to do is establish at the point where it's y, and we actually look at it as trying to get an area of a disc first. So that area of a disc, A, would be actually be equals to pi r squared, but in this case r is your y variable squared. So that only gives you area. So the volume element will be attained when you actually multiply it by delta x in this situation. So delta v, which is your volume element, will be given by pi y squared delta x. So what we need to now do is try to find the volume that is created by the line function, and then minus it off with the volume that is created by the curve function. So in that case, we actually have the formula in this form as, so the volume of shaded, let me put as Vs, will be equals to integral of 0 to 5, that's x. Okay, for pi, so for the line function, this is x over 10 negative plus 1, but do remember that this is the y value, so you need to square it, and then delta x. And we need to minus off with the line, the curve, which is going to be x equals to 0 to 5 pi y squared again. So this will be 3x plus 1 to the power of negative 1 over 4, but when you actually square it, so this is going to be negative 1 over 2 delta x. Okay, so based on this, we need to expand the left hand side of this part of the equation, and the right hand side I need to do a substitution rule to actually solve the integral. So let's expand this left hand side first. So this becomes pi, so expansion of that Oh, I need to actually have it as the integral first, sorry. Okay, so I'm just expanding, I haven't integrated that part yet. So x equals to 0 to 5 pi. So this becomes x squared over 100 minus x over 5 plus 1. Okay, you can double check my expansion again, delta x. Well, this side, let me just leave it as it is first. X equals 0, 5 pi 3x plus 1 is about negative 102 delta x. So the integral for this side is easy. This will actually give me, so pi, so x cubed over 103 minus x squared over 5 times 2 plus x. Okay, and I need to sub in the values of x equals 0 and x equals 5 to find the solution for this part of the equation. Minus off with the other side, which I actually get, I still leave it as it is, 5 pi 3x plus 1 negative half delta x. So as I mentioned, I need to use a substitution rule. So let me assume, so let u be equals to 3x plus 1. So therefore du per dx is going to be equals to 3. And we can get dx is then equals to du over 3, which we will then use for our integral. Okay, so then that becomes, okay, for the left hand side of the equation, let's put in the values of pi, so 5 cubed over 300 minus 5 squared over 10 plus 5. Okay, and then the other portion is 0, so I can ignore it. While this side of the equation, so if I were to substitute u, so this will be integral of x equals to 0 to 5 pi. Okay, so this is still, so I've substituted the u, negative 1 over 2, and this becomes du over 3. Okay, so then I do the integral of this. Okay, okay, let me just do this part of the equation, so we'll calculate this later. So what happens is this becomes minus pi, so u plus this, so this becomes u to the power of half and divided by half, and then there's a 3 here, which is not the power but multiplied by the denominator. Okay, and we need to integrate this from x equals to 0 to 5, or you can actually substitute as u. So u in this case, when we put in the value of x, so x equals 0 means that u equals to 1, and when x equals to 5, u will be equals to 16. Okay, so if you do the overall calculation, you'll find that the volume, although it's dimensionless, will give you the value of 2.88.